Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my injury. It's been a wild ride with my labrum tear, and it's only recently been diagnosed as a labrum tear because I thought it was a hamstring issue, and there's been so much confusion and it's been ongoing for years. It's put me out of action. It's been really hard to deal with, but now it's hopefully going to finally get sorted. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on trying to rehab the labrum, what I now know to be a labrum tear, without surgery, and then the likelihood of me having surgery is quite high now, and why I'm going to take the surgery. So it's a really long story and a really long journey. If anybody else is out there struggling with this, it is in horrible pain. So I used to be a sprinter, and I was never that competitive, but I used to train a lot. I used to do it for fun, and every now and then I remember thinking, oh, my hamstring really feels like it's pulling. This is about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and basically I couldn't train. I was training 3 times a week, then it became 2, because it felt like I always was pulling up with a pulled muscle. Like no matter how hard I stretched or warmed up or how much I rested, the next time I trained after feeling well rested, it would just feel like, I pulled my hamstring again. Like, why does this keep happening? So that went on for a long time, and I was, after a while of management, just about able to train, once a week if I was super lucky, but then I'd have to have like 2 weeks break and whatever. And then pretty much I was like, I went to physio. They said it was a hamstring issue, a hamstring tear, or another physio who's got some massages, and it never really got better. So this went on for about 1.5 years. But then when I was about to look into it further, COVID happens, the world was upside down, training stopped, the NHS was under stress. And then pretty much straight when COVID was ending, I went to drama school, which meant that I couldn't train anyway. So I thought, why not just wait a bit and essentially stop training and, focus on drama school. I can't train anyway. And that went on for 1.5 years. During that drama school time, I had no issues with my injury. I played football for a whole day and it was fine. But then, this is about a year and a bit ago now, but since that day of football, my injury has got a lot worse. It's always been around, but I don't know what has made. Maybe it was that football, but nothing. The week of the game, the day that I played, it's not like I pulled it or injured it or made it more severe. But since that day, my injury has got a lot worse. And now I'm talking about my now known to be a labrum tear, but I went to physio and was treating it for a hamstring tear that didn't recover properly. Hamstring tendonitis, because I'll be sitting down, I get a bad pain, I have to stand up. Anything to do with extending my leg, it's a nuisance. I can't play football, I can't play sport, I can't run. There's so much that I can't do, which I now know all to be because of this injury. So if you've got a hamstring injury that's up and it never goes away, I would definitely recommend pushing for a scan quite hard. I had to push hard because everybody's like, oh, you'll be fine, it's a hamstring tear, you'll return to play, don't worry about it. But I knew it wasn't getting better. I knew myself it wasn't getting better. So always push for a scan if you genuinely feel like something's not right, because if you know your body best. But yeah, long story short, I did months of rehab for high hamstring tendonitis, which made my hamstrings and legs all around as strong as they've ever been. It always felt like I had a pulled muscle. Whenever I extended my leg, it felt like it was pulled. Then the injury got worse, and I started getting pains when I was driving, when I was sitting down for long periods of time. If I slightly slipped in the mud and I slightly tense up my right hamstring, I'd be like, oh, I've pulled my hamstring again. What the heck? How has that happened? So it's getting worse. Walking, I walk slightly differently now because I'm so used to it pulling on my hip joint that I've altered my walk, my stride length shorter. It's a real pain of an injury, but let's move on to what happened after the scan and what my next steps are. So I had an MRI scan, or I went in the circular tube, I think it was MRI, and the specialist, which I had to push for, I've seen many specialists, I've rested for a long time, said that I've got a labrum tear. So I thought, a labrum tear? Now, very similar symptoms to high hamstring tendonitis, dilate, can't stretch, the extension and compression is the hamstring isn't good. And essentially, what I now know is that I'm being put forward for surgery. Now, this is something that you always kind of want to avoid. You never really want to have surgery unless it's last resort. And just to kind of talk openly about the sports injury surgery that I would be having. Now, I've got a labrum tear, and this is where it is, and this is exactly where I feel the injury. I've always pointed to the upper part of my hamstring just below the glute, but then I have felt it all around. If I literally sit down and I, open my groin, push my legs out as wide as I can, my labral tear does get slightly aggravated, and that should have been a sign that I had a bit of groin pain. But yes, this is what it is. And pretty much whenever I extend it, or even, basically the longer it's gone on as well, the less I've been able to do. Like anything to do with striding out, kicking, well, yeah, it's just tough. I can't do it. And I feel like I've tried a lot of rehab. Right now I'm going through like my fourth or fifth dedicated rehab time of being in the gym, doing a resistance band work, mobility for the hip, walking with the resistance band, all stuff like that. And I've definitely found that when I was treating it as a hamstring injury, some of the exercises that I was trying to rehab it with for a hamstring tear, like RDLs, would aggravate it. They make it worse. So luckily I've stopped doing them sort of things. I stick to the machines, even though like hamstring curls, I can't do a lot of weight on that because it starts to hurt. But I'm just in preparation for my consultation with a surgeon, having the rehab and trying to do it manually, because it's always best to try and fix it manually. But I think after it's been 3 years, it's going to be tough to see if I can heal it manually this time around, because I've tried before and it hasn't really worked. Now I'm guessing my tear is quite bad, which is why they want me to go have a consultation with the surgeon. And the reason why I'd be open to surgery is purely because I'm young, 24 almost, and I've tried to fix this injury and I can't fix it. And I feel like it's got worse over the years. I haven't been properly diagnosed, and it's such a core element to my everyday life, to my sports, to my enjoyment, that I need to get it fixed. So yeah, that's a pretty much an update on how my injury's going. If anybody's suffering with a labrum tear, man, it is a nagging injury. I had shin splints, osteoslatus, and now a labrum tear. Like, why did I get a labrum tear? I honestly don't know. Goodness me. So yeah, I think the surgery has an 80% chance of working. I think the surgery is also keyhole, which means you're not often put out. The recovery time is extremely long, 9 months until full recovery, crutches for 2.5 to 4 weeks, and then 3 months of physio followed by another 3 months. So it's a very, very difficult injury. Now, an acute traumatic injury can cause it to start with. Maybe I had that in my hamstring and it led to a labral tear. I don't know how it's happened. It's been too long. But so yeah, I just really wanted to have like an honest chat about the injury being very detrimental to my life, to my enjoyment, to what I can do, and like just day-to-day stuff. I can't kick a ball in the park, man. I can't go for a run. My cardio is shot. Like it's genuinely like a really severe injury. So if you are struggling consistently with a hamstring injury that doesn't feel better, I definitely recommend, thinking about, is it worth me pushing for a scan and then seeing that there's nothing wrong? Because when I went in to get this scan, I never thought in a million years that it would be my hip and ball and socket joint that was wrong. I thought it would be all about my hamstring. I was convinced I had hamstring tendonitis. I knew it wasn't a hamstring tear because it just would not go away, but I thought maybe it's tendonitis. So I started rehabbing it, as I said, for tendonitis. Didn't help. I literally rehabbed seriously for 4 weeks, and then I slipped on a bit of mud and I went back to square one. And it became like I became numb to the fact that I would spend months rehabbing this injury and then I would go back to square one. Well, it's crazy. But one thing as well that I've learned from this injury is that once this is done, I am never going to neglect the core stuff like the leg machine for the groin, for the glutes, walks with resistance bands forwards and backwards, and really just keeping that whole area super fit, mobilized. And same for my core. I could probably do my core. I could probably do some work on my core. But I've realized at 24, I really have to be careful about injury prevention. Like, this is exactly where it is. I felt it much more to the back. But yeah, I'm working on it massively. And I'm hoping that soon it's going to be sorted. And guys, I mean, if you're watching this video to this point, you must also have a bad labral tear or must think you have one. comment down below. Let's get in touch. Let's sort something out, because, you know, the injury is tough, man. And I think that my labrum tear, I've only made worse because I didn't get it seen to quicker. But it's not my fault. I did go to the physio, went to NHS. We was working on it. I had some private physio afterwards. I got let go of the physio, and then I had more private sessions. I needed a scan, and I had to push for it. And luckily, eventually I got it. But man, if I could go back in time when I first got the injury, I'd probably go private and really push for a scan, or I'd probably, I'd really push for a scan. That's my one thing, but, it's easy to say with hindsight. I now know. Recover hopefully in a year and a half, 2 years, back on the sports grind. But thank you for watching, guys. Take care, and I'll speak to you all again soon about this if you like this video.